Now, for anyone to think of a scholarship, the first thing you need to do is be sure what your final academic record looks like. Now, there are scholarships for sportsmen.
Okay.
There are scholarships for writers. There are scholarships for those in the sciences. There are also scholarships basically for people who are in the medical field. A full scholarship can be given to cover everything that has to do with your schooling, because their aim is not just to give you money to come and school. But another thing I have come to discover over the years is that our youths are very lazy. The African youth is very, very lazy.
Okay, welcome to the Anamonpa Media studios with your host Richmond Setrana. Today, I have an amazing guest in our studios named Mr. Frank, who has about a 10-year experience in travel consultancy, and is joining me here today as we talk about how young Africans can apply for scholarship abroad. This is an interesting topic because we have a wave that is sweeping across Africa, and the term is called Japa, which means traveling from your home country, seeking greener pastures outside your home in abroad. And one of the means by which people are doing that is through the school route or the study route, and they are doing that through scholarship applications. So Mr. Frank, who has over 10 years experience in helping students apply for scholarships, is here to tell us all about it and also to guide students who may have similar ambitions. So Mr. Frank, you're welcome to the Anamonpa Media Studios. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here this day.
All right. So I would want you to give us a brief introduction. Our viewers would like to know a little bit about you, the kind of work that you do, and then your experience in the travel consultancy field.
Once again, my names are Frank Ogenerukere Igoroje. The names are long,
Yeah.
but you can refer to me as Frank. Yeah. So basically, I have been in the travel industry for a period of 10 years and more. If I will be precise, this should be my 12th year.
Okay.
And with the help of God and the efforts we put, I've been able to navigate in this industry for this long with both the pitfalls and the gains in it.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Frank. So, before the interview, you told me about how you studied geological science in school, but now you've transitioned into travel consultancy. So I really don't see the correlation. So I would want you to brief us how you got into travel consultancy.
Okay. My dad had always wanted me to work in Shell Petroleum. From childhood, he was always saying that. So I think at the word go, when I was to go to the university, he wanted me to read any of the engineering courses so that that dream of his would be actualized. So after some hustles and I was able to go into the university, but I had admission to study geological sciences.
Okay.
But from childhood, I have had this passion for travel. I've always been a traveler. As a matter of fact, the first time I ever traveled alone was when I was 15.
That's interesting.
And I got grounded for almost 2 months because we live in the southern parts of Nigeria.
Okay.
And I traveled to far north, a town close to the border between Nigeria and Chad. But all was because that's my passion. So it actually started from there. And after school, I tried getting a job actually, because I wanted to fulfill my father's dream of working in Shell. But because I don't have any connections, I don't have anyone to fix me up, I sat back one day, I think it was after a conference, and after listening so much to the speaker, I sat down and I asked myself, my passion can actually become a drive for me to start making money. Mm-hmm. So while in my little cubicle that day, I started jotting down things. And that was where the idea came in to start a travel business.
Okay. Okay. That's really interesting. That's an interesting background story. So now let's talk about your travel business. It's called Rusolani Tours.
Yeah, the modern name is Rusolani Travel and Tours Limited.
Okay.
Okay. Rusolani Travel and Tours Limited is the modern name, which is registered in Nigeria.
Okay.
But here in Ghana, we have Rusolani Pros Limited.
Okay.
So it is all about traveling, but we are still into several other things.
Okay.
So basically, that's the name for the company.
Okay. So let's go into the specifics of what exactly you do. So I know you help students apply for scholarships abroad. That's one thing that you do. And how long have you been helping students?
As far as I can remember, the first time I ever recruited students outside of Africa was to Ukraine.
Okay.
And that was in the year 2010.
Okay.
That was the first time I actually signed a contract with a university in Ukraine. So since then, it has just been a step-by-step thing from one country to another, from one country to another. I and my team helping out with students going abroad to study, and some of them at the end of the day eventually staying back.
Okay. So over the span of that time period, how many students would you say you have helped secure scholarships abroad?
Well, I wouldn't want to be so specific because I really can't pin the number, but I can say in the hundreds.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very impressive. So now let's talk about the scholarships itself. Now let's come into scholarship application. So what kind of scholarships are there, and who actually qualifies for a scholarship? Is it for anybody at all?
Well, when you talk about scholarships, where a lot of people get it wrong is they feel everyone can apply for a scholarship.
Okay.
But it's not true.
Okay.
Now, the scholarships are of different types, which I'll run through them gradually now. Now, we have several scholarships. We have the partial scholarship, and we have the full scholarship. Now, in the partial scholarships, I will break it down.
Yes.
Now, when you hear partial scholarship, sometimes it can be 50% of the total cost of your schooling year. At the same time, it can also be 30% of the total cost of your schooling year. Then there are some fellowships or some organizations that offer 20% of the total cost of your schooling year. And these are all classified under the partial scholarship.
Okay.
Most times when you get a partial scholarship and it is specifically stated that it is 50% of total cost, it simply means if the total cost of your study for that year is $10,000, for instance,
Okay.
what you are getting as a scholarship is $5,000.
All right.
But if they are telling you the total they are giving is 30%, it simply means you divide and you know what exactly 30% will be. So all of these come under
The
partial scholarship. And now for partial scholarship, most of the times you should also know that there are little expenses that might not be totally mentioned to you.
Okay.
For instance, your students, we call that over here student union,
Okay.
such fees,
Yeah.
you have to take care of them. Some other little fees here and there. Now, when we talk about the full scholarship most times also comes with some restriction. I mentioned them quickly. A full scholarship can be given to cover everything that has to do with your schooling, aside your flight ticket.
Okay.
Some full scholarships come with everything that has to do with your schooling and also your flight ticket.
Okay.
Now, some full scholarship also come with your monthly stipends
Yeah.
to help you navigate your daily life. But some full scholarships also come without your monthly stipends.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, it's for you to be able to look at it carefully, understand the terms and conditions in each of the scholarships.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Frank. That's very elaborate. So I'm sure our viewers have really enjoyed what you shared so far, and I'm sure they are taking notes, actually. So now I know you touched on who qualifies for a scholarship, but can you give us more detail about that? Is it just anybody? Maybe someone goes to school, they finish, they're a graduate. Is that enough to qualify for a scholarship? So what qualifies one for a partial funding? What qualifies one for full scholarship? Can you give us those details?
So those who qualify for scholarships basically are those who have done well academically.
Okay.
For instance, there are certain scholarships that if you don't have up to 4.0
Okay. GPA.
as your total GPA, you cannot apply for such scholarships.
Okay.
There are some that with 3.5 or 3 points above, you can qualify.
Okay.
While there are some that are strictly for those in the upper echelon.
Okay.
It's either 4 points
And above.
or nothing.
Very competitive.
It's highly competitive. So these are some of the things that you look at when you want to apply for a scholarship. For instance, someone who has done poorly academically has just no chance getting a scholarship.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Frank. So I think a word of advice to our viewers that if you are looking at applying for scholarships and you are still in school, all hope is not lost. That means you have to really do well and aim for a GPA of 4.0 and above to stand a really great chance of applying for scholarships.
Yes.
So now let's track back to the types of scholarships that there are. So I know you spoke about the two broad categories, the partial scholarships and then the full scholarships. But then I also know there are scholarships for people who are like athletes. Maybe they're able to compete competitively in sports. There are also scholarships for people who can be able to prove that they've done some extra curricular activities. Maybe they have an initiative, an NGO or something. So can those projects also kind of complement academic education? So maybe the person couldn't get a 4.0, maybe the person got a 3.5, but the person has that extra edge outside of academic activities. Can that also boost their scholarship opportunity?
Now there are also other types of scholarships, which I'll quickly run through.
Okay.
Now there are scholarships for sportsmen.
Okay.
Or sportsmen and women rather. There are scholarships for writers.
Okay.
There are scholarships for those in the sciences. There are also scholarships basically for people who are in the medical field. So some of all these that I have mentioned now are for people with extraordinary performances.
Yeah.
For instance, the scholarship for sportsmen that you can run doesn't mean you can just go and apply for a scholarship.
Yes, that's true.
That you know how to jump over a fence doesn't mean you can just go and apply for a scholarship. That scholarship is specifically for people who have performance proof. They
So
have a
like
track record.
Performance-based scholarship, if you can
Exactly.
put it that way. Okay.
Exactly. A sportsman who has a proven track record, a sportswoman who has a proven track record, you can go for the sportsmen or sportswomen's scholarship.
Okay. So that would stand to reason that they also have their own criteria, which may not necessarily
academics.
Yes, be
but
academic.
That's notwithstanding, doesn't mean you can go in with a third class.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So now let's delve deeper into the subject. So if somebody has all the necessary qualifications to apply for a scholarship, what is the first step that they need to take? And then after giving us those steps, can you also give us examples of organizations that give scholarships to African students?
Now, for anyone to think of a scholarship, the first thing you need to do is be sure what your final academic record looks like when you're leaving school.
You should know.
Because we've encountered a lot of students over the years. It is when you want to begin, that is when you now find out that they don't even know their total score. Some of them just only know that, oh, I graduated with a second class. But what is the score? They don't know. So it is when you want to begin, you now tell them, okay, go back to the school. Let them do a cumulative stuff and give you what it is.
Even on our transcript, it should be stated on our transcript.
Good. So that is the only time that you can now say, then I need to look at the scholarship I'm going for. Now, going to the organizations or people that offer scholarships, scholarships comes from almost all the Western countries. The Australian government is giving scholarship to Africans. The American government is giving scholarship to Africans. The Canadian government is giving scholarship to Africans. Then in Asia, we have a country like Japan. Their government is giving scholarship to Africans. We have a country like Hong Kong. Their government is giving scholarships to Africans. We have South Korea. They are giving scholarships to Africans. Even China. As a matter of fact, there was a time it was a rush. China was giving scholarship from first year to third year for undergraduate programs. But a lot of people tend to want to face the known places. For instance, the World Health Organization gives out scholarships to those in the medical field. Same goes for the World Bank. They give out scholarships. Now, all of this I have mentioned are out there. There's no hidden secret.
They are all in plain view.
They are all in plain view. But another thing I have come to discover over the years is that our youths are very lazy.
Very true.
The African youth is very, very lazy. And that is why a lot of things are happening in this industry.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Frank. So now let's talk about some of the pitfalls associated with applying for scholarships from this part of the world. I'm talking about challenges that are peculiar to us. Maybe people from America, Canada, UK may not face those challenges, but we have to face them. How do we navigate those challenges when we're applying for a scholarship? Let me give you an example. So, if you're applying for some scholarships, even some school applications, they may ask us to write IELTS. Meanwhile, we actually speak English, we were taught in English, but they still require us to take those tests, even when our colleagues from other parts of the world may not be required to take those steps. So how do we know some of these pitfalls ahead of time so that we can adequately prepare for them?
Now, one thing our African youths need to understand is this. By virtue of being African, you are already deprived.
Okay.
As an African, you are deprived. No matter the level of academic prowess you show, you are deprived. So the first thing to look at when you want to go for a scholarship, which categories of people is this scholarship for? 2, what are the criteria? Just like you mentioned, if IELTS is needed, then you know you must have it. I was talking to a group of people and I was telling them, I said, I speak more English than even a British.
Yeah.
But they still constrain me to want to write an English test.
Yeah.
I am more vocal than an American, but they will tell me I still need to write an English test in order to get to school in the US. But all of these are politics.
Okay.
Yes. So if you find out that some of these exams are part of the criteria, then you have no choice but to take them.
Okay.
Then another thing you must also look out for. Each of these scholarships have a particular number that is required.
Okay.
For instance, there are some scholarships that are basically for people from North Africa. Yes. And you see our people from the western part of Africa now applying for such scholarships. And at the end of the day, they tell you, oh, Charlie, I didn't get it. But you were not informed. You didn't check properly. There are some scholarships that are for the whole of Africa. That makes it a very competitive scholarship. If the scholarship is for the whole of Africa, the first thing they will be looking out for are students with high performance when they are doing the selection. So if you don't have a good score, 3.5 above, there's no need going for such scholarships. But if you have 3.5 and above, you can go for such. Once it is said it is for the whole of Africa. But when you see a scholarship specifically saying it is for West Africa,
Or maybe for women.
or for women, or for men from Africa, then you should understand that, okay, the numbers that will be going in will not be that competitive.
Okay.
So you can also apply. Then another factor, most times when it is with people for MSc
Okay.
or PhD,
Okay.
your work experience is very important. And that is one place that a lot of our people neglect. If you don't have a good work experience, they won't consider you. Because their aim is not just to give you money to come and school. Their aim is to make you school and contribute to the economy. Because they are not going to be spending so much on you without having an end result in mind. They've already programmed all of this. They know that you coming in and benefiting in this scholarship, you will give your best to their economy. So it's a give and take thing. So all of this must be considered when you want to apply for a scholarship. Now, the biggest pitfall that Africans have generally is the issue of not being able to put their documents that are required together.
Actually, that was my next question. Yes.
A list of documents are mentioned. And sometimes, I don't know if it's out of negligence or the way we were raised. We just believe that somehow, you should be able to maneuver. But it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
It doesn't. If you don't have the complete documents, you fall out of it.
That's true.
But you see the people over there in the Western world, when they give a list of criterias, 1 for 1, 2 for 2, they go for it and they get it.
Okay.
And because they also have privileges and they have exemptions, at the end of the day, it looks like we are struggling.
That's true. So that also brings to remembrance, talking about the pitfalls. Okay, let's talk about the documentation now. So what kind of documents typically do African students need to put together to apply for a scholarship? I know every scholarship application is different, and organizations that give out scholarships have certain peculiar requirements that they need. But typically, what documents will students need to put together to apply for a scholarship? Now, linking the documentation to the pitfalls, right? You talked about how some Africans are not able to put together all the required documents. But here lies the case. I've seen students complain bitterly about their school not being open about giving them their transcripts, delaying issuing transcripts. They have to do back and forth. And there's also timeline to applying for scholarships and all those things. So that's also one of the pitfalls. So how do we navigate all that? But you can answer that question and also link it to the documentation that people typically need to apply for scholarships.
So if you know that you want to go for a scholarship, the first thing you should look at is the time frame. Some scholarships are open for 2 months. Some are open for just 1 month. Because they know that if they open it for too long, they will have more than the needed number, thereby stressing themselves. So the first thing to look at is, what's the time frame for the application? If the time frame for the application is 2 months, within that 2 months, whatever needs to be done should be done even within the first 1 month.
Okay. And also, I know some scholarships are also on a rolling basis. So it's like first come, first served.
Exactly.
So the earlier you apply, the better.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, going to the documentations, I want to go to Canada to school.
Very true.
And I want to get a scholarship. What session am I looking at? That's the first question that should come to mind.
Okay.
If I know that I want to go in by January 2025, I should start gathering all my documents immediately. For instance, if I have not picked up my certificate from my university, I should go for it. If I have not picked up my transcript, I should go for it. If there are any other documents that I need from the school, for instance, one thing a lot of people don't seem to pay attention to, organizations we are part of while we're in the university are very important.
Okay.
Yes. Now, if you can get reference letters, because you have not worked anywhere.
Yes. You're straight from school.
You are just coming out from school. Get reference letters from these organizations. Get reference letter from the student union body. Ensure that you even get reference letter from your department. Even if you are not a departmental executive, get a reference letter. There's a way to go about it. All of this put together with those reference letter from your organizations and all of that. Then for those who are people who go to church, get reference letter from your church. If you are a serving member of a vibrant church, you must belong to a department. Get a reference letter from the department, the head of the department, or from the senior pastor. By the time you put all of this together, you are already getting yourself some good points. Then, one more important thing that people neglect: police character report.
Wow.
A lot of Africans underplay this document, but they don't know. This document is so vital that even the embassy makes it compulsory for you to show it most of the times. So when you are applying for a scholarship, why won't you add it?
Yeah.
Because it shows that you don't have any criminal background in your country of residence, which is a huge plus for you. By the time you put this together with your documents from school, with all the reference letters I've mentioned, you see that you're heading somewhere.
Okay.
Then if you are somebody who have ever worked, peradventure you have worked for just 2 months after school, add it to it. Get the owner of the place, even if it's a business center, get the owner of the place to draft a reference letter, put his number and email, and add it to it.
All right. Our lovely viewers, I'm sure you've learned so much from the things that Mr. Frank has shared with us. These are profound nuggets for life. We'll probably have to watch this episode again with a pen and a paper and then take better notes. So, Mr. Frank, our last question for you. This is a bonus question, by the way. So, I know some students who can afford it would rather want to outsource their scholarship application to agents rather than the discipline of applying on their own. What are your thoughts on that?
Because I'm a travel agent, I want to make money. But most of the times, the first thing I tell people is, do it on your own.
Okay, that's interesting. Is that not a conflict of interest?
It's not.
Okay.
Because I strongly believe if you are smart enough to do it on your own, you will save costs.
That's true.
But in the long run, I will say, also seek a professional advice.
Okay.
For instance, I want to say this. One of the companies that you can easily get a scholarship through is Empower.
Okay.
Now, it may not come like a free scholarship.
Yes.
It comes in a loan form.
Yeah.
Where you have loan to study. Now, most Africans, I'm generalizing now, most Africans pay so much to get scholarships because they feel it is something that can be lobbied.
Yeah.
But it's not true. If I have to pay up to $2,000 in order to get a scholarship, then to me it's no longer a scholarship.
Okay, but they are seeing it from the angle where they pay $2,000 to secure a $10,000 scholarship.
Well, everyone with how he counts his gain.
Okay.
But to me, I feel if you are good with even a smart Android phone, you can easily navigate through the internet and get all of these scholarships. Okay. I have mentioned so many of these countries. You can go on the internet. Between the period of January and April, scholarships come out.
Okay.
Between the period of June and September, another set of scholarships come out. Between the period of November and January, another set of scholarships come out. They are all there on the internet. You actually don't need somebody to apply for you. But if for any reason you need a professional guidance, why not? Feel free. Okay. Look for a trusted hand.
Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Frank, as you said, you're a travel consultant with 10 years experience helping students apply for scholarships. So in case there are students who genuinely need your services, how can they reach out to you? Maybe you can mention your social media handles.
So here in the city of Accra, we have a physical office and it's at West Legon, just before the Adonai Temple of ICGC. And if you want to contact us via social media, we are very active on TikTok. Once you put Rusulani, our page will pop up. You can send us a DM and ask your questions, and we can take it up from there. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Frank, thank you so much for coming in.
It's my pleasure.
We've learned so much. I mean, it was power-packed in a space of about 40 minutes or 30 minutes. You've shared so much with us. It has been amazing. It has been very wholesome. Thank you so much. And to our lovely viewers, this is Anamonpa Media. Stay connected. Subscribe to our channel for exciting content about Africa and how to make good use of our opportunities. Thank you. Catch you another time. Bye-bye.